The Tao moves in every direction at once. Its essence is fluid and yielding. It is the maker of everything under the sun, and everything comes out of nothing. Recent verses have been incredibly long, and this one is incredibly short. Pretty fitting for a book that often talks about we know opposites by each other existing together, such as the long and the short. It's hard not to incessantly relate water to the Tao because it is such a fitting example of what we experience here on Earth and the way in which the Tao takes action. If you think here about something being able to spread in all directions at once, you think of something like a flood and something just expanding in every direction as it's overflowing. And even though it's expanding in every direction, it's doing so by engaging with everything around it through yielding. And this verse very explicitly says that yes, the Tao is expanding in every single direction at once, all at the same time. Again, very similar to the idea that opposites arise together at once. It's not that light begets darkness and darkness begets light. It's that those two things come packaged as one. And also, similarly here, the Tao acts in all directions all at the same time, at once. But core to its being and to its action is that it is fluid and yielding. And in this same manner, we can think about something like the young. If you think about a newborn, how bendy and flexible they are, and how much they can accomplish because they are so flexible and so able to endure the many obstacles of life as they're trying to figure out how to coordinate themselves and orient themselves to the world. Now contrast that with the elderly, the frail and the rigid, those who become very stiff and very unable to be flexible, not only in their body, but in their mind. A young child is often described as a sponge. And I know that this isn't 100%, but it isn't uncommon for the elderly to be described as set in their ways. Another way to say that would be rigid. And so the more fluid and yielding you are, the more fluid you can be in your body and the more yielding you can be in your actions and in your mindsets, the more full of life you are. And the more rigid and the more closed-minded you become, the closer to death you are. Now the next line says something that has been said many times before in the Tao. We're about halfway through the book. And here it says, everything comes from the Tao, right? It is the maker of everything under the sun. But here's the important part. Everything comes out of nothing. Many people ask the question, why is there something rather than nothing? But here the Tao is very accurately pointing out, this is another one of those things that arises mutually. It's another one of those things that is packaged together as one. It's not that everything is in existence instead of nothing. It's that everything is in existence because there is also nothing, because everything is also nothing. So at its core, everything is nothing. And if you think about the idea of cyclical natures and rebirth, and the idea of what happens after I die, do I just go into nothingness? Do I return? Well, think about what happened when you were born. You apparently just sprang to consciousness from absolutely nowhere, from having absolutely no consciousness, no body, no essence, no life force, and then all of a sudden, those things and a multitude of others are here. So if you return to nothingness, that is only a single side of a coin that proves that you are once again becoming something. Again, nothingness doesn't beget everything, and everything doesn't beget nothingness. They come together. One does not exist without the other, so it is like a turning wheel. And on the 180-degree delineation marks, one is perceptible, and the other is with it, but is imperceptible. Again, because the perceptive and the imperceptive are one. they have to exist together. So you have one thing that you can perceive and another that you can't, but they are both there. And they are both arising together, but you are experiencing them in this chronological world, and so to you it seems like one comes and then the other comes. But in reality, they are always there together. And so because we know in our current state that we are here and everything else is here, and it seems that there's just abundance of life here on Earth, and even outside of here, if we can't recognize other planets and solar systems and meteors and comets as life, even if we don't want to acknowledge that, they are still existing in numbers beyond our comprehension. And at the core of all of it, and at the core of you, because you are all of it, is nothingness. Your baseline, that from which you come to know your perceptions, is nothingness. So don't fear the nothingness. The only way to have somethingness, or to have everything, is to also be or have nothing.